So, today we're gonna go ahead with a book that I've started like a month ago, or maybe a bit less. I think it is actually a bit less, but I don't know. I've started it and I have actually forgotten about it for some reason. I don't actually know why, but today we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna see. I think that it was quite a good book. I don't think that it's been amazing, but yeah, we are on the Power Moves to Come site. Everything is amazing, everything is cool, and we're just gonna go ahead. So it's called Evil Inside Human Violence and Cruelty by Roy Baumeister. And we have stopped with the 4 roots of evil. The first one is means to an end, instrumental evil. The more rational side of evil underpinned by lust, greed, or ambition. For example, the monarchical policy of brutality to create terror, but also crime as a short. The evidence suggests that violence is a poor mean to acquire material wealth and sustain power, but it can create short-term power and dominance in interpersonal relationships. See, abusive relationships. Yeah, don't do that. It's, at least at my point of view, not worth it. And not worth possibly ruining somebody's life by being violent, whether it is verbally or physically. Egotism and revenge. People seek revenge mainly to answer to threats to their self-esteem, aggravated in case of public threats and what others think. When responding to a blow to one's self-esteem or public image, people will incur costs and losses to hurt the person who humiliated them. And yes, I do really believe that when it is all about public things, when it is about some things that somebody did to you in public so that other people notice, then it first of all is something completely different than if this person just did it directly to you without anybody knowing. And I think it is more severe, I don't actually know why, but I just have a feeling, that it is just a big of a thing. Conceit, I guess, higher levels of egotism lead people to regard, I've lost the fucking line. High levels of egotism lead people to regard oneself as superior. That can lead to evil, but by not caring how others feel, because for the conceited, others don't matter. Then we have idealism and utopian goals. It's a man who honestly wanted to do something good, who committed some of the world's biggest atrocities. Evil is not only acceptable, but it becomes an obligation for the sake of the greater good. The most financial and hateful members can become the leaders of the pack. In idealistic evil, see Hitler. Yeah. And then there's sadism and fun. It accounts for a minority of evil, but it exists. And there's a quote, in the long run, the ends often fail to justify the means, and instead the means tends to contaminate the ends. Most people find it upsetting to harm others. I would actually also say so. Some people have strong gut reaction to harm others, even when it's appropriate or even when not harming could cause harm to themselves. For example, 1 in 4 American soldiers in World War II could not aim and shoot at the enemy during battles. 1 in 4, it's quite a big number. It's quite a big number. But they're soldiers. And I don't know about World War II in terms of Americans, but I do guess that they having a military or the military. Whereas, for example, a very strong one as well with a lot of people. And I don't know, there's no other country that's having such a big military force, I guess. I don't know. I'm actually just assuming. And, it's kind of strange to then hear that they don't like to fight. Maybe this is just something that I kind of believed in or assumed. But yeah, anyway. German policemen recruited to kill Jews reported physical revulsion to their first day on the job. Yeah, first day. And after 10 days, you get used to it and you're having fucking fun. And even serial killers sometimes report upsetting experiences on their first killings. It's not that their moral and ethical principles have been violated, but it is more of a gut reaction. Which I actually really believe in as well. That it is not necessarily something conscious, but rather subconscious. Your brain or inner game telling you maybe this is not something that you should be doing, and yeah, you should not be doing that. But many also enjoy watching others suffer. Most people do not enjoy fighting and killing, but albeit many people have a revulsion in hurting others. Not all do, and many more find watching others suffer and die pleasurable. Well, I don't know about dying, but I can really assume the suffering thing. Seeing somebody that you maybe don't like and or somebody that hurt you suffer is, I don't know, like for some people it is going to be cool and nice. And as Baumeister writes, the spectacle of violence holds a fascination that seems to transcend time and culture. However, this is not to say that everyone who watches or enjoys watching violence would be a perpetrator of violence. Empathy as the evil antidote. Empathy is a powerful inhibitor for evil. And that's why psychopaths who lack empathy commit more crimes and even more violent crimes. Empathy also emerges later in life, and that is why children can be more sadistic. Yes, I kind of have seen that as well. That, first of all, sadistic, I believe in that. I can't validate that, but I just believe in it. Maybe this is one of the reasons why we're having children soldiers, because they are even more cruel than just adults are, because they're only thinking about them. Like, they're very egocentric. Something that I've indeed seen, and I don't know, like, it is a very, very interesting thing. And as there is a certain period of time where this egoistical and egocentric worldview just gets pushed away a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, just kind of leaves the party, if you know what I mean. And I don't know when this period of time is. There's actually some very, very interesting, well, I don't want to say studies, but maybe there have been studies, but findings maybe by a very known person. And I have read that, and it's been really interesting. Like, there's certain periods of time where a child quote unquote should be able to do certain things, and if this child is not able to do this certain thing, then it is, I don't know, it's not retarded, but it is like more in progress, if this makes sense. And on the other hand, there is no way that you can skip a step. You have to do something. You have to just go through this particular phase to get to the next phase. There's no way around. But some people or some children, for them it takes a bit longer, and for some it is just not that of a big thing, and so on and so on and so on. Empathy's limitations, intensity, and circumstances. People are different, and they also differ in their levels of empathy. Furthermore, in some cases, empathy does not come into play at all. Empathy is selective and can come into play into certain situations, but not in others. Some people can disconnect their empathetic response independently of their overall empathy, which, maybe leads to, revenge and all of these things. For example, Hitler was a vegetarian and stood firmly against any type of violence and harm against animals. Interesting. But sadistic pleasure can grow over time. This was one of the most eye-opening chapters. Hans Toch, social psychologist and criminologist, concluded after a long research on violent offenders and violent policemen that violence is habit-forming and can increase over time. And I really, really believe in it. And I mean, as they themselves pointed out, like the first time they killed somebody, it was strange. But of course, you get used to it. Of course, it is just gonna be a habit if you're just doing it more often. The author, relying on two different sources, Groth on rapes and Toch on violent offenders, says that around 5% to 6% of violent men are violent because they enjoy the pain they cause. A few sadists need to overcome the first repulsion towards violence and inflicting pain before becoming sadists. For example, says Baumeister, many serial killers got their start in the Vietnam War, where they were forced to overcome their first resistance to violence. I mean, it just makes sense, it just really makes sense, but also says that the human being per se is not evil from the beginning on, that of course, there's going to be some prepositions, people really liking it and whatnot, but a high percentage of these people need to start somewhere. And yeah, very, very interesting. Sadism is like addiction and high adrenaline. Sadism resembles addiction. The first puff of cigarette, glass of beer, drug experiences are often not the most pleasurable. Yes, it's not. But as people keep using, they start getting into the groove, derive more pleasure, and become more addicted. Baumeister links evil to high adrenaline experiences such as bungee jumping. The first time you do it, you're super scared, and the high you get afterward might not seem worth it. But as you do it more often, the fear becomes less and less, and the high stays the same, compelling you to do it even more often and possibly from different locations and higher heights. Similarly, with time, it's possible that the sadist experience less and less upset and causing harm while he starts to derive more and more pleasure. As I think it is with quite a lot of, as he also pointed out before, with cigarettes and beer and drugs in general, that, I don't know, we just grow into things. And then it is very, very, very difficult and hard to get away from them, even though it is illegal, even though it is something that not a lot of people are doing, even though blah, 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 blah. Why not everyone who's experienced violence becomes a sadist? Baumeister says that it is most likely guilt which stops many from becoming sadists after they become evildoers for the first time. Says Baumeister, if this analysis is correct, then there is a potential sadist inside everyone, but our conscience and our capacity for guilt keeps it hidden. I completely believe in that. I mean, we are able to do quite a bunch of horrible fucking shit if we are forced to. I mean, I would argue that we all would eat another person in doubt before dying. I kind of have a feeling. I don't know why, and it's probably not very pleasurable. I don't necessarily think that the flesh and or meat, if you will, is tasting that good, and just the thought and or the visualization per se in my head is already not that nice. Absolutely not. And but I still think like we can overcome a lot of things. I think we can overcome a lot of subconscious burdens and or subconscious locks or subconscious things that are just going on. And I think in some ways, and or just concerning some things, this is something pretty amazing. But of course, in some other ways and concerning some other things, it's just weird, completely strange and or interesting, just, for the lack of a better word. Sadism and the need for power. Baumeister says that one need for sadists might be that of eliciting sincere emotions. What would have such a need? Who would have such a need, he asks. It's people who seek power. And people who seek power seek an impact on others people's lives and are miserable when they fail to have an effect on others. I'm very sorry for reading that so poorly. The power that might be used for good or for bad, but the end game is similar, and that power might be used for good or for bad, but the end game is similar, and it's to produce an effect. Says Baumeister, rape, sexual harassment, and even children's teasing can also be understood in terms of power motivation. Through the victim's pain, the sadist gains validation of his own power. Baumeister says that the true sadist does not lack of empathy, and empathy helps the sadist derive maximum pleasure because he or she knows that what he or she is doing fucking hurts. Are sadists evil? Baumeister says that sadists do not validate the idea that evil is real among humans. He says that it's more correct to say that humans come with an inbuilt mechanism that can be adapted and recruited for evil means. Criminals are short-term thinkers. Crime is often a product of short-term thinking, and it offers the emotional thrill that appeals to these types of people. Criminals tend to show the same lack of control in all other areas of their lives. For example, they are more likely to drink, use drugs, become involved in unplanned pregnancies, get into fights, have car accidents, have unstoppable marriages, etc. And if they happen to make some money, they spend it very quickly. Well, I do believe that there just is going to be some exceptions. There's always going to be some exceptions. Whatever the fuck you're talking about and whatever the fuck somebody else is talking about, there's always going to be some weird ass fucking exceptions. But I don't know. Like, I do think that this short-term thinking, which might or might not be the worst kind of description for this person or type of person, I do think that just a lot of behaviors that we are having in some way of our life, in some area of our life, is very often translated into other areas of our life, or are often translated into other areas of our life. I don't know, but on the other hand, there's also just some behaviors that we are just practicing in one area of our life, but just completely neglect to see that in some other area. For example, me tidying up my room. I don't often do that. I do not really often feel the urge to do it as well. Sometimes I do, but then it is a really, really severe situation in my room. And I'm in general not, well, I don't want to say organized because I don't think that it has something to do with organized, but I don't work very clean. Never ever. No matter what the fuck I'm doing, I'm not, it's not like I'm not able to do so, but I just more or less choose to do it in that way. Often I think actually for the sake of just being more efficient and faster. But which could also definitely be a way of me kind of being more happy about me dealing with things in maybe not the best way. I really think so. Let's see. Criminals tend to show the same of other areas of their life. Blah, 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 blah. They spin it very quickly. Evil needs to encouragement, only less self-control. Evil does not need to be promoted. It only needs less self-control to emerge. Self-control can decrease for many different reasons, including inconsistent, conflicting, or ambitious obligations, authority figures overriding personal judgment, focusing on low-level details to avoid dealing with ethics and morals, alcohol and drugs. Culture can dictate where, when, and how much it's acceptable to lose control. The media can also help to bring out violent fantasies from people who are already prone to violence. The author quotes FBI expert Russell, author of Whoever Fights Monsters. If left unchecked, evil escalates towards greater evil over time. Is there actually much left? No. But do I want to go through it? No, I don't think so. I think that I'm going to end the episode there. Actually very interesting, but also a little bit strange to go through these things. But I don't know, maybe it helps somebody. I'm actually not quite sure if, I don't know, it's really strange to talk about that. Maybe it's just the mood that I'm having, maybe it's just, due to some other shit, I don't know. But we're gonna see. I just wish you the best health of happiness and also success, and also hope that you're gonna remind yourself and you're gonna be remembered, which basically means your legacy and basically means just being a nice person and then being remembered as a nice person, which is a pretty fucking cool thing. 3 other questions that I have you are, why are you here? What are you trying to change and what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, which is a pretty fucking cool thing. Yes, one last question that I'm having you is, what could you essentially say to another person that is indeed going to change their life? Because I totally believe from the bottom of my heart that we all can say something, we all can communicate something that's indeed going to change somebody's life. And that's really fucking amazing, and I enjoy that. But yeah, with that being said, I'm hopefully going to see you the next time, and bye-bye. Take care of yourself, your family members, your friends, and all your loved ones.